So here the next question is the Bell's palsy that is associated with a lesion of the which cranial nerve. Okay. Obviously, it's a pretty much simple question. Everybody knows that it's a seventh cranial nerve. So the seventh cranial nerve is the one that is basically associated with Bell's palsy. So let's take few things regarding the Bell's palsy. So Bell's palsy is basically there is an acute lesion, and that acute lesion is the typically of the lower motor neuron type of lesion of the facial nerve, right? So it is basically an lower motor type of lesion, and that basically involves the facial nerve, right? So it basically affects as a result of the Bell's palsy. It will basically affects the both upper part of the face as well as the lower part of the face, and that will typically in the ipsilateral, means the same side. So you are able to appreciate there is a upper and the lower part of the face that is being affected in the same side. Okay. So the etiology, most of the time it's basically the idiopathic etiology, but so apart from that there is a varicella zoster virus is there, but also there is a herpes simplex virus which can also cause the Bell's palsy. But your diabetes and the Lyme's disease is also there in the line as well, right? So in this image you can easily see that in case of supranuclear stroke, like as it was mentioned in this image, like in case of supranuclear stroke, it's basically an upper motor neuron lesion. So any lesion that basically involves any like the tract that is basically stays upward from the facial nerve nucleus, so that is basically your upper motor neuron lesion. But here like the lesion in the facial nerve that is there, so they are basically called as the lower motor neuron lesion, and here it's an acute one which is known as the Bell's palsy, right? So as the facial nerve basically supplies the areas of the upper and lower part of the face that will eventually get affected on the same side due to the Bell's palsy related lesion. Here you need to know regarding the differences. What is the basic differences between the upper motor neuron lesion and the lower motor neuron lesion? So look, what happens is that the forehead wrinkling, as we all know, the facial nerve is basically divided into two parts, right? So these two parts are basically in case of upper motor neuron lesion, the parts basically supplying the upper part of the face that will get preserved, while in case of lower motor neuron lesion, the both upper and the lower part of the face will get affected. Okay, and that too in the same side, but here your forehead wrinkling, so that's why the forehead wrinkling will get preserved. Why? Because the forehead area or the upper part area is basically supplied by the bilateral innervation, so it basically happens in the unilateral area. Until and unless the patient basically suffers from the bilateral lesion, upper motor neuron lesion, so then only you are able to see some changes. But the eye closure as well as that will remain present in case of upper motor neuron lesion, but that will be absent in case of lower motor neural lesion on the same side. Also the nasolabial fold. So this nasolabial fold is basically flattened on the opposite side, because the lower part of the fiber is basically under the control of the contralateral nucleus. So that's why the opposite side basically comes into the play, as well as for the angle of mouth deviation as well. But here the in case of lower motor neuron, the flattening of the nasolabial fold and the drooping of the angle of the mouth has been seen on the same side. So this is the basic differentiating features that you need to be very careful while answering such kind of questions in the examination. So it's basically very much favorite for the examiner's point of view. Now the taste sensation. So here in case of lower motor neuron lesion, the taste sensation usually being affected, but here in case of upper motor neuron lesion, the taste sensation is possibly affected, but that too in the anterior two-third of the tongue. So here the anterior two-third of the tongue is only affected, but here in case of lower motor neuron, it's totally affected. Okay. So in case of Bell's palsy, our part of the management is simply go for the oral steroid, oral corticosteroids. And so look, the thing is that regarding the management and the protocol, you need to start the patient on the oral corticosteroid, and in most of the time within 72 hours of the starting steroid, the patient will recover spontaneously. And you can also go for the antivirals, like if there is any antiviral cause seems to be there, but the recovery usually within 6 weeks to 6 months. Okay, the recovery will take usually 6 weeks to 6 months in this case.